class, you guys. All right, let's go ahead and let's bow in. So straight up, bow, kunya. All right, so today's class is going to be focused on kicking. So we're really just going to cover 2 kicks for the most part today, and those are going to be our front kick and our roundhouse kick. But before we do that, let's go ahead and warm up. We're going to warm up our legs a little bit more than we did last time because we are going to be kicking and going through larger ranges of motion. So you want to make sure that you always have a proper warm-up before you try to extend what you can normally do. All right, so let's go ahead, and one of my favorite ones to start off with is just a jumping jacks. So let's do jumping jacks. Now, when you do your warm-up exercises, I want you to think about what you're actually warming up and what's actually happening, right? So what muscles are we using during jumping jacks? Well, for the most part, we're using our shoulder muscles, our deltoids, to help raise our arms up, right? We're using our hip abductor muscles to bring our legs in from the jump, and our hip abductor muscles to bring them out. And then overall, we're just getting our blood flowing, our heart's pumping more, and it's going to warm us up so that there's more blood to the muscles, and there's less chance of injury. Not taking it out completely, but just less chance. All right? Now we're going to go forward and backward. And now you can move the arms if you want, forward and backward too. So now this, before we were moving in more of a sideways range of motion with jumping jacks, everything's going to the side. This, everything's going forward and backwards. So with the hands, we're warming up our chest and our tricep as we're pushing forward. We're warming up our back and our bicep as we're pulling the hands back. Our legs, we're warming up really most of the muscles in our legs except for the ones that go sideways. But our hip flexors are bringing it forward, our glutes are bringing them back, and then we have our hamstrings causing a little bit of a bend in there, and then an extension from our quads to help us actually get that push off of the ground. So we've got a lot working, and that's going to be the goal. You're trying to warm up all of the muscles that you're actually going to be using. A little bit more. Try to keep breathing. All right, so now the next one we're going to do, we're going to put one foot forward, and the inside of our foot is going to face towards the front, and then we're going to switch. Watch how my belt goes side to side. I'm turning my hips as I do this. The hands are just relaxed. Use it as counterbalances here. But I'm trying to move everything, right? I'm not keeping these still. They are still moving. Keep going. All right, let's slow down a little bit. Let's circle our head real quick. Don't actually circle it quick. Other direction. Arms forward. Arms backwards. Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, and hold. Thumbs back. 1, 2, 3, and hold. We're going to trunk twist. Add some hip twists into there, so bigger range of motion. You can do your trunk twist like this, keeping the hips still, engaging your core, and then you can start to add the hips in there. When I add the hips in there, I raise my heel on the back side. Circle your hips. Other direction. All right, now we're going to socket stretch. Let's go a few times. Try to get that full range of motion, but we're not holding it for a long time. We're going all the way in, holding it for a second, getting that stretch, and coming back. Let's go to the other side, same thing. Down and back up. Drop it down and back up. Let's do 1 and 1 more. All right, so now we're going to raise our back heel up off of the ground. This should have rotated your hips. Before, the knot in my belt was pointed towards the center. Now the knot in my belt should be pointed towards my front leg. And I'm going to go down. When I'm doing this, I want to try to keep my back leg as straight as possible, and I'm just bending at my hip and knee of the front leg. You should be feeling the stretch right here on your hip flexors. Now let's go to the other side. A few times. Let's do 4. Let's 2, 3, 4. All right, now we're going to go dropping this down 4 times, trying to get that full stretch into those hamstrings. And the other side. All right, and now we're going to sumo split. So here you're using your forearms to push your knees outwards. And come up, and let's shake it out a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a knee strike or a front knee strike. So the kicks that we're going to do today, we're going to learn them first with just a knee strike because it's slightly easier. Now you can do this from a sparring stance or you can do this from a fighting stance. Either one, perfectly fine. Depends on what you're going to use it for. So I'm probably going to stand, in about a fighting stance. So I'm here, right? Hands are nice and relaxed. I'm in a squared stance. My belt is pointed forward, not off to the side. Now with my back knee, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise it up, and then I'm going to push my hips forward and bring it back. So I'm not just raising up like this. I'm raising up, and this causes a lot of bend here, and I'm going to shove my hips forward. When I do that, I have a slight lean backwards as I'm reaching with my knee. So not just up, reach with it. Try to imagine if there's something just a little distance away where I can't touch it when I raise my knee up, but I can touch it when I drive my knee forward, right? See, I can't touch it, I can. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing this. You're reaching with that knee. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do 10 reaches with our whichever leg you want. So put leg in the back. It's going to be your dominant leg. So start with your dominant leg. We're going to raise up, drive forward, and bring back. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you go too far, where you kind of fall forward, that's fine, but try not to do that for the purposes of this. If you're actually driving that knee and trying to hit somebody, you're going to go forward. But for right now, let's try to have that control and bring it back. 5. Breathe out on each one. Exhale. 6. 7. 8. You can kind of turn the steering wheel as you do this towards the knee that you're striking. 9. 10. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the other leg, but we're going to do this slightly different. So I could just have you switch, and then I could have you do the exact same thing, but I don't want to do that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a step and then a knee strike, and we're going to come back to our spot. Step, knee strike, and then move back, all right? So it's almost the same thing as I'm just starting with my other leg in front and doing that knee strike, but now I'm stepping with it. So I'm getting more forward momentum with it. One of the reasons I like to show it this way instead of just a switch, especially if I'm doing it in fighting stance. If I was doing it in sparring stance, I'd probably just have you do the switch. But from the fighting stance, you're probably always going to have your non-dominant side in the front. And if you want to hit with that side, then you're going to have to do a switch step or a forward step before you do it. So we're just going to kind of put that in right now. So we're going to do 10. Ready? 1, step forward, knee strike. If you drop it down in front, that's fine. And then step back. 2, 3, 4. Make sure you exhale. 5, 6, 7, step, knee. Make sure you exhale. 8, 9, drive your hip forward. You should have this motion whenever you're at the top of that knee. 10. So I have that lean back as I'm doing. I'm really reaching with that knee. All right, so that is a front knee strike, forward knee strike, however you want to call it, or a straight knee, it'll typically be called as well. So now you know how to do that. Now we're just going to add an extension at the knee. So extending the knee looks like that. Pretty easy, right? All right, so for the white belt material, all you have to be able to do is kick it using the top of the foot or the instep, and you're pointing your toes. Now, you can do that right now. I show that because that's the easier one. What you're going to have to be doing later is just pulling the toes back and kicking with the ball of the foot. So if you want to practice that right now as well, you can. All right? You don't have to, though, but you will have to do that later. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise the knee up from the back with our dominant leg here. And now as I go with that extension forward, that's when I'm going to kick out, and then I'm going to chamber it back, right? So I'm not just going to have that straight leg fall and then come back like that. I want to kick, chamber it back, and set it back behind me. Now, I'm pausing a little bit for that chamber just to illustrate it. The chamber is really going to be more here rather than, right? So we're not going to have that long pause. I'm just kind of showing that, all right? So keep that in mind as well. Drive that knee forward. And one last thing that I see a lot of people do when they're learning how to do a front kick is they bring the knee up, they kick out, they get full extension. So, right, my knee is complete, or my leg is completely straight at this point, and then they raise their knee up even higher as they bend the leg, and it comes back. And it looks kind of like this. Right? So wherever your full extension's at, even if I kick low and my full extension's low, I don't raise my knee up higher than that point when it's at full extension. So I don't want to go here, and now my knee comes up to my chest. Don't do that. If you're kicking low, that's fine. Kick there. Wherever that full extension's at, that's the highest that your knee should go for that kick. Even if you can raise your knee up higher, don't do it after full extension. You know, save that for the next kick. Ready? All right, so we're going to do 10 with our rear leg. And 1, 2, 3. Drive the hip forward. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing that we did for our, it was my left knee, it was probably your left as well, but your non-dominant leg, you're going to have this step, and now we're going to front kick, and we're going to bring it back. So I'm going to step with the back leg, kick, and you can drop it down in front, or you can just already chamber it back to the back, and then just step back into your spot. All right, so we're going to do 10 of that, kicking with our non-dominant leg, adding that step in before it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Make sure you exhale on every kick. 8, 9, 10. All right, take a deep breath in and out. Breathe in and out. All right, so that was our front kick. Again, you could have done it with your toes pointed or with your toes pulled back, hitting with the ball of the foot. Now, when you kick with the toes pointed, chances are you're probably going to be kicking like that when you have shoes on. The targets are going to be to the head of a bent over opponent or the groin, right? There's not really that many targets because the motion is an upward motion. as opposed to kicking with the ball of the foot, which is actually more of a forward motion as I kick. So if I had a bag here so that you can see this, I would kick straight with the ball of the foot, or you can even use the heel. But if I was going to kick with the top of my foot, I would want the head of a bent over opponent, or I would kick to the groin. Obviously, that's not going to happen with Bob. All right, so keep that in mind. Those are your target areas and when you would use one over the other. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the beginning of the next kick. So we're going to do the half roundhouse kick. This is also called a round knee. So it's going to look like this. It's a knee, and it goes around. All right, now when I teach this way, I am very specific about how I want you to do this. You're not really going to use this. You can use this as like actual strike, like a round knee strike, but even the way I'm going to show you is going to be slightly different than how you would do an actual round knee. And the reason I do it this way is honestly because it's a little bit harder, but if you can do it this way, you're able to adjust to more different types of kicks later. So the way I want you doing it is when you rotate and you're at the top of your knee strike or your half roundhouse kick, your head, hip, and knee are all in one straight line instead of creating what I call this L shape. So you see how my head to my hip to my knee create this L. There's this bend in my hip. I want it completely straight. So if I was to grab a collie stick and I have this, you can see that it's all in one straight line. But if I have the L shape, you can see that there's this gap here, right? Boom. I don't want that gap there. I want you to get rid of that gap for right now. Again, you don't always have to do that whenever you're actually using this kick. But for training purposes, it really helps to develop the attributes that are going to lead into a lot of other kicks later, and they just make it so much easier. If you can do this, you can do the other way way easier, because everyone can do this. This one's easy for most people, but doing it this way is a little bit harder. All right, so let's get into what has to happen whenever we do this. This bottom foot here needs to pivot. That's a pivot. It needs to pivot on the ball of the foot, not the heel, and it needs to pivot at least 90 degrees. Now, for this specifically, I want you to get 180 degree pivot. Again, it has to pivot 90 degrees. That is required. But I want you to get 180. That's another training tool. So I want you to rotate it. So now my knee is pointed that way, but my toes are pointed that way. That's what I want you to practice, because when you can get the pivot down really well, it makes everything a lot easier, like turning hook kicks. When you can pivot all the way around and you're really good at it. So if you can just barely pivot, well, it makes things a lot harder. So we're trying to practice, and that's really the biggest part of this half roundhouse kick, is getting that and then getting that body alignment. So again, I'm going to start here. My toes start towards the front. My knee is going to come up and around, and I'm going to pivot all the way around. Head, hip, knee, all in one straight line. Toes are pointed about 180 degrees. They should be pointed behind me. All right, enough talking. Let's do it. Ready? Back leg. And one. And now bring it back. I don't want you to set this one down. I want you to bring this back. It helps with that pivot. Two. And bring it back. If you can, hold it for a split second at the top of the knee. If not, that's fine. Bring it right back. But if you can hold it, it's going to help with your balance as well. What are we on? Three? Three. And bring it back. Four. And back. Five. Six. Seven. 8, 9, 10. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the other leg. Now this one you can, if you want, you can do it with the step and then a pivot, but I think that might be a little bit harder for this for right now. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to switch so that our non-dominant leg is now in the rear position. And this time I'm in a sparring stance. I'm not in a fighting stance. I could do this though, and I will do this a lot of times if I'm kicking a round kick from my fighting stance and I want to kick with my non-dominant leg, I'll do something like that in order to do it. So it's kind of the same thing, but we're not going to work that just yet. We're just going to work that pivot because the pivot is the most important part here. All right, ready? So in our sparring stance, we're going to rotate 180 degrees on our base foot, and we're going to keep our body in a line. Ready? One. And back. Two. And back. Three. And back. Four. And back. Five. And back. Six. And back. Seven. Eight. Try to keep that body in a line. 9. How much did you turn that foot? I didn't even get 180 that time. Try for that 180. 10. There we go. And back. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the full roundhouse kick. So the full roundhouse kick from there looks like that. So all we're doing now is when we rotate, boom, I'm going to kick out, and then I'm going to come back. Now, I'm going to start the extension at my knee before my knee is all the way pointed towards the front. So I don't want to do this, and I show this, so I apologize for it, but when I break things down, I have to slow it down so you don't get that realistic feel sometimes. But I don't want you to go here, point the knee towards the front, kick, bring it back, and then come back. It's good for learning it. You can practice it like that. Just realize that that's not what your kick is. Your kick is going to start extending, and then it hits that target, and then it's automatically going to start coming back. And I want you to do this with your kick. So as you get that full extension out here, this flexion, the knee flexion, I want you to use that to help counter rotate. So I don't want you to go here like that. I want you to use that knee flexion to help you bring your leg back, to help you counter rotate or counter pivot on your base leg. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing this. You don't want to just and kind of have that pause. Have it go together. Try to flow as much as you can. If you can't quite do this yet, maybe for balance purposes, but if you have a bag, this is something you can do. And you can do this on just about anything because we're not going to be actually kicking it. But what you can do is go here, do that half roundhouse kick, put your shin and your foot on it, and then press off of it. And then go again, here, and press off of it. And then later on, you would actually start putting the power in before you impact the bag. So here, I put the power in after. So that's a little training tool to help you get the full roundhouse from the half roundhouse kick. All right, so enough talking about it. Let's go ahead and let's do it. Full roundhouse kick. Ready? Again, I'm in a sparring stance this time. You can be in either one. And go. 1, 2. Still for right now, try to work on that body alignment. No L shapes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna switch and we're gonna do the exact same thing on our other leg. Again, make sure you're not getting that L shape. Try to pivot 180 degrees. You need at least 90. We're going for 180 right now. Again, this is training for it. So when you're actually using it, you can go a little bit less, but for now, I want you to go all the way. Ready? Other leg, roundhouse kick. Hana. Exhale every time you do the kick. 3. Oh, I'm going back to English, sorry. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to do some more. We're going to do 10 more on each leg of that full roundhouse kick. Reason being, the roundhouse kick is the kick. It is the kick, right? If there's one kick that everybody has seen, it's probably the roundhouse kick. If you look at any picture or silhouette of a Taekwondo person, it's always a roundhouse kick. Maybe sometimes a side kick or a flying side kick, but it's almost always a roundhouse kick. And that's because it's the most common kick. Anytime you're in sparring, you're just going to see so many roundhouse kicks. I don't know what the actual number ratio is, but I'm going to say it's like 80% of most kicks in sparring are roundhouse kicks. Don't quote me on that if it's wrong, but it's probably somewhere around that, all right? So we're going to do 10 more. Ready? Oh, sorry. 1, 2. Make sure you breathe. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other leg, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I kind of forgot to mention this, but the hands. What are the hands doing? The hands are usually going to be doing kind of this swinging motion from side to side. One hand comes in, one hand goes out, right? Front kick, kind of that same thing. I might just turn it, roundhouse kick, I'm going to go here. I want you to not throw it straight down and back though. The reason being is I want it closer to your face so that if you do need to just bring it up, it's closer. If I go here and it's all the way down and I need to bring it up to block, I might get hit. Now that's not saying that just because it's here I can get it there in time. It's just saying I have a higher chance of getting it there in time for the block. So I want you to keep that in mind. Whenever you're doing kicks, I want your arms to be moving constantly, but I want them to stay above your belt level. All right, so I don't want your hands coming down here. So if you throw them around here with your kicks, whatever it is, I don't care. They try to stay up, floating around, and they're used as your counterbalances constantly. But just try not to drop them all the way down. All right, now the next thing I'm going to talk about is the kicking surface areas for the roundhouse kick. So if you're doing Taekwondo sparring, the only kicking surface area for a roundhouse kick is the foot, right? The foot. That's Taekwondo sparring specifically. Now, if I'm actually fighting somebody, me, myself, I will not kick somebody with my foot unless I'm going to kick them in the head. If I'm going to kick somebody, I'm going to kick with my shin. Why? Because my shin, or my entire, lower part of my leg is made up of 2 giant bones. Oh man, I forgot the exact number. I think it's 26. I want to say it's 26 bones in the foot. 2 big bones, 26-ish little bones in the feet. The little bones are going to break, or even worse than the little bones breaking is the joints, because there are many joints throughout. It's not just one or bones going there. There's little joints, and tearing the ligaments that hold those joints together is awful. Don't do that. So if you're actually going to kick something hard, kick with your shin. If you're doing Taekwondo sparring, you're not trying to kick as hard as you can in Taekwondo sparring. You're trying to kick fast, and you're trying to tag them. So you're not going to be breaking feet. Plus, you're going to be wearing a sock. It's a little foot protector, Not a lot of protection, but it's some, and that will also help you. So kicking with the foot if you are sparring, kicking with the shin if you are actually trying to do some damage. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do solo drill 1. We're going to do just the linear version, not the circular one. And the goal of this one is just to practice the weight shift. So I'm going to do a half roundhouse kick, and now as soon as my foot touches the ground, I'm going to do another half roundhouse kick. So I'm just doing 2, one right after the next. 1, it touches the ground and my weight shifts. So as soon as that knee or that foot touches the ground, my weight shifts automatically. So I'm kind of just doing this, all right? And then as soon as it goes to it, I go to the next one. And I go to the next one. So that's all we're practicing, is just chaining them together. So I don't want you to do this. And then go, all right? So it's just 2 consecutive. As soon as the weight touches, or that foot touches the ground, the weight shifts into it, and you do the second one. All right, ready? And 1. So 1, 2. And now we're just going to turn and face the other direction. 2. 1, 2. 3. 1, 2. 4. 1, 2. Again, still working on that body alignment and rotating the foot. What number was I on? 3, 4? I think I was on 4. All right, this should be 4. 4. If it's not, well, my bad. I wanted to count in English so I could actually remember what number I was on, but I still forgot. 5. 6. As soon as it touches, shift. 7. Exhale. 8. 9. 10. All right, take a deep breath in and out. Breathe in and out. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to shift gears more towards the end of the class. So we're going to do a conditioning. So today's conditioning is going to be, it's a lunge, or it's not really a lunge. It can be called a split squat. Some people, I used to call them lunges, but you're not actually going forward or going backwards, so it's not quite a lunge. It's more of a split squat. So you're going to stand here in that lunging position. That heel is going to be up, and you're going to drop your knee close to the ground. If you have mats like I do, I can touch the ground, and I don't have to worry about hurting my knee. If you're on hardwood or anything hard, don't touch your knee to the ground. It could hurt. So we're going to start down in this basic kneeling position. We're going to come up, front kick, and back. All right, we're going to do 3 sets of 10 of those. Ready? Start in that kneeling position. One thing I want you to try not to do, if you get really tired, you can, but try not to push off of that front leg to help you stand up. I want your hands off of that leg. Ready? 1. And bring it back. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Go down, and let's switch sides. Same thing, other side. Ready? 1. 2. Exhale each time. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Go down and come back up. All right, shake your legs out. We're going to do 2 more of those, all right? Easy, right? You're not even feeling it yet. I know I'm not. All right, like you began with last time, And 1, 2, exhale each time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go down and switch sides. All right. Same thing, other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we got one more set of those. I'm feeling it a little bit now. I'll probably be feeling it pretty good after this next set. Get a little stretch there, a little stretch there, feeling in my quads. All right, last set. Let's do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other side. Ready, set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Drop it down and come up. All right, take a breath. Breathe in and out. In and out. All right, so we're gonna start cooling it down a little bit. We're gonna start stretching it some. So I feel my quads. How about you? You feel them? Yeah, probably. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drop our leg down right now. We're going to push our hip forward. So this is your hip flexors. It's kind of the top part of your quads. Probably not quite the part that's burning, but we're gonna get to that next. All right, I'm gonna stretch that hip flexor. Right now we're in that kneeling position like we were just doing those kicks, except for we're gonna push our hips forward. We're gonna drive this knee forward as we do this, stretching right here. Now what I'm gonna do, I have my right leg in the back, my left leg in the front. So if my right leg is in the back, I'm gonna put my right hand down. If you have your left leg in the back, you're gonna put your left hand down. You're gonna create this tripod with your hand, your foot, and your knee. Now you're gonna raise this other hand up to the sky, and you're gonna try to grab this foot, and you're gonna bring it in. And now you should start to feel this on your quads. And a little bit of hip flexors too. All right, let's go ahead, let's hit that other side. Hip flexor, so we're in that kneeling position, and we're gonna push our hip forward. Now you should feel it higher up on the thigh, right here. I'm gonna hold this for a few seconds. Now this is a great kick or a great stretch to help you get higher front kicks, right? Or axe kicks, things like that, where your legs are splitting, where one's going straight forward, but your toes of your base leg are pointed forward as well. It doesn't help very much if you have to pivot, so this isn't really one for a roundhouse kick. It's not doing much for that sort of a kick, but for an axe kick and the front kick, getting that kick up high, this sort of a stretch is gonna help a good bit. Now, my left leg's in the back, which means my left hand is gonna be the other side of the tripod. I'm going to raise my other hand up to the sky, curl my back leg, and I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to bring it in as much as I can. I'm putting most of my weight right now in my hand. I'm not really putting it in the leg or the knee. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. I'm tilting it there. If I have too much here, it might be hard to get this. So I'm going here, which allows me to grab my foot a little bit easier. All right. So now the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to go down into our splits from the center. And now I want you to sit down, go as far as you can, and then sit down, but don't let your legs collapse in. They're going to want to just slide right in. Don't let them. Walk your hands forward. And now rock your shoulders side to side. This is one of my favorite stretches, and just sitting in the seated splits, I used to use bricks, right? And I would put a brick here and a brick there, and I would raise myself up, and I would put it down. My legs would try to push in, but I was on carpet too, so the bricks had a lot more friction. They didn't just slide. And I would sit here, and I would eat food. I would, as a kid, doing training, I would do homework. I would watch television in this position, and this is how I was able to get the splits. I was able to get the splits in about 6 months. It took me 6 months. I was training about 6 days a week, so I was doing a lot. I was stretching there, and I was stretching a lot at home as well. All right. Now I was also younger, so it was easier for me. I could get it in 6 months. If you're older, your muscles are going to be tighter, unless you've been stretching for a long time, and it's going to take longer. So just be aware of that. I was 12, so I had a little bit of advantage there. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. So if you just sit here, sit long enough, and then at a certain point you're going to realize, hey, my leg's relaxed. And you're going to just come up and go a little bit further. And then you're going to lean forward and lean side to side, whatever you need to do. Just kind of hang out in the position. All right, so let's go ahead and let's bring the legs in. This is always the most fun part. Bring the legs in after you've done the splits. And let's shake them off a little bit. We're going to stick one leg out to the front, lock our knee out so it's completely straight, and we're going to reach forward. Try to stretch your hamstrings. You can pull your toes back if you need to, if you can. All right, bring it in, other side, stretch. And again, if you're really working on flexibility, you need to be holding these for about 30 seconds. I know we're not doing that right now. Just keep that in mind. You need to be holding these for about 30 seconds if you're going to work on flexibility. Okay? Right now I'm just kind of doing it as a cool off so you're not going to be as sore. All right? Go ahead and stand up. Let's shake our legs out a little bit. Shake your arms out. All right, guys. Cheer up. Hands and feet together. Stand like a statue. Bow. Kunye. And great job on that class, you guys. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to answer any questions. I know I saw a few comments popping up, so I'll go ahead and answer those. All right, Ian, got a bunch of questions again. Okay, strengthen the legs, just things like we were just doing. We were doing conditioning at the end. You know, squats are good, deadlifts are good. Asked about sparring, having punches. Sparring, Kukulon sparring does have punches, but you cannot punch to the face. You can only punch to the body. You can score with a clean shot, but those are up to the judge's discretion. So you might get the points, you might not get it. If you knock them over with a punch, you're probably going to get the points though. How to make punches stronger. So all these stronger questions, you're going to have to look at the mechanics, look at the muscles that are being used. So punches, what muscles are being used? Well, you're starting with your legs. So you've got your quads, you've got your glutes, you've got your calves. Those are going to be the main ones that work on extension. They're going to help you twist harder. And then you've also got your chest and your tricep are going to help with the extension of the actual arm going forward. Not going to talk about leg sweeps because those don't pertain to Taekwondo. What is the hardest kick to learn in Taekwondo? The hardest kick to learn is the one that you can't do. No, so it really depends. Like in Taekwondo really kind of can consist of all kicks, but at a certain point they're just more tricks than they are kicks. Like a 540 kick is more of a trick than it is an actual kick, but I would say that one's hard to learn. But if you want to step that up, you can go for like a 720. And then, you know, there's just a lot of tricking that it turns into, and those are what become harder. I would say the hardest basic kick is a side kick for people to actually do it correctly. People do side kicks, but they don't do them correctly most of the time. Escaping a bear hug, that is actually self-defense number, is it 2 or is it 3? It's either 2 or 3 in the yellow belt. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed today's class. You know, we just kind of covered a bunch of, or the 2 basic kicks, we did them a bunch, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, so hopefully I will see you next time. Have a great day.